The notification appeared on my laptop at 2:53 a.m. while I was finishing a quarterly report for the firm. A Google Photos shared album from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but something made me click. The first image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like my brain was trying to protect me from what I was about to see. My wife, Rebecca, wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary last month, sitting on some guy's lap at what looked like a hotel bar. His hand was on her thigh. She was laughing, head thrown back in that way she used to laugh with me, before the late nights at the office became routine. I sat frozen in my home office chair, the spreadsheet forgotten on my secondary monitor. My name is David Patterson. I'm 38 years old, and until that moment, I thought I had it all figured out. A successful career as a senior analyst at Bridgewater Financial, 2 beautiful kids, Emma, age 8, and Tyler, age 6, a 4-bedroom colonial in Westfield, New Jersey, and a wife I'd loved since we met at Rutgers 15 years ago. The second photo made my stomach drop. Same hotel bar, different angle. Rebecca was kissing him. Not a peck. A full, passionate kiss that left no room for misinterpretation or excuses about just a colleague or networking event. There were 17 photos total. I clicked through them all, my hand shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. The final image was a selfie. Rebecca and this mystery man in what was clearly a hotel room, her lipstick smeared, his shirt unbuttoned. The timestamp read 3 days ago. Thursday night. The night she'd told me she had to work late on the Carmichael merger. A message appeared below the album. Thought you should know what your wife does at the Marriott downtown every Thursday. Been going on for months. A friend. I checked the sender's number again. Area code 973. Local to New Jersey, but not in my contacts. Who was this person? Why send it anonymously? And more importantly, how long had this been happening while I'd been playing the dutiful husband, picking up kids from soccer practice and making dinner on the nights Rebecca claimed she was swamped at work? My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Don't wait up. Client dinner running late. Love you. The casual lie, delivered with a heart emoji, made something crack inside my chest. I looked at the time, 2:51 a.m. What client dinner lasted until 3 in the morning? How many times had I accepted these excuses without question, trusting her implicitly because that's what you do when you love someone? I forwarded the photos to my personal email, then to a cloud backup, my paralegal training from my pre-finance days kicking in. Document everything, create redundancies, protect the evidence. Then I did something that surprised even me. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop's browser history and started searching for her digital footprints. Rebecca had always been careless with passwords, using the same combination for everything. Emma's birth year plus Tyler's birthday. Within minutes, I was into her personal email account. What I found made the photos look tame. Hundreds of emails to an address belonging to someone named Kyle Brennan. The earliest one dated back 11 months. Almost a full year of, I can't stop thinking about you, and Thursday can't come soon enough, and detailed plans about their weekly meetings. Hotel confirmations, inside jokes, references to when we can finally be together properly. She wanted to leave me. She was planning it. I scrolled further, my coffee going cold beside me, the sun starting to creep through the blinds of my office window. There were emails to a divorce attorney, consultations about asset division in New Jersey, questions about custody arrangements, inquiries about whether emotional incompatibility was sufficient grounds, or if she needed to establish fault. The attorney had responded with detailed information about New Jersey being an equitable distribution state, about how marital assets would be divided, about how she should start documenting our marital problems to build her case. She was going to blindside me. Take the kids, take half of everything I'd worked for, and ride off into the sunset with Kyle Brennan while painting me as the problem in our marriage. I sat back in my chair, watching the darkness outside fade to gray, then to the pale blue of early morning. Downstairs, I could hear Rebecca's car pulling into the garage. The kitchen door opened. Her heels clicked across the hardwood floor. "David?" she called up the stairs, her voice sweet and familiar. "Are you still up? I told you not to wait for me, honey." I closed the laptop carefully, quietly. "Just finishing some work," I called back, keeping my voice steady. "Be down in a minute." "I'm exhausted," she said, and I heard her heading toward our bedroom. "This merger is killing me. I'm going to shower and crash." I listened to the water start running in our master bathroom. The same shower where she'd washed off the smell of him every Thursday night for 11 months. The same bed where she'd slept beside me, probably dreaming of her new life while I remained oblivious. But I wasn't oblivious anymore. I pulled up a new browser window and typed, "Best divorce attorneys in New Jersey." Then I paused, deleted it, and typed something else. "Private investigators, Westfield, NJ." If Rebecca wanted to play chess, I'd play chess. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated the man she married. The same analytical mind that made me successful at predicting market trends would now be applied to protecting my children and everything I'd built. I had evidence she didn't know I had. I had time she didn't know I'd bought. And I had something she'd already lost. The moral high ground. The game was on, and she didn't even know we were playing. The search results for private investigators filled my screen, but I couldn't focus on the words. My mind kept circling back to the same question. Who sent those photos? I pulled up the message again on my phone. The area code was 973, local to northern New Jersey. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m., which meant someone had been awake in the middle of the night, someone who cared enough to warn me, but not enough to identify themselves. A friend. I'd been turning that phrase over in my head for hours. What kind of friend? Rebecca's co-worker who felt guilty? Someone from Kyle's circle with a conscience? A stranger who'd witnessed something at the Marriott and tracked me down somehow? The question gnawed at me, but I forced myself to set it aside. Whoever they were, they'd done me a favor. The why didn't matter as much as the what, and what I had now was ammunition. I glanced at the clock. 7:23 a.m. Rebecca would sleep until at least 9 on Saturdays, her usual pattern after late nights. The kids were at her mother's place for the weekend, a sleepover Emma had been excited about for days. The timing was almost too perfect. I had the house to myself and a narrow window to work. I opened a new browser tab and searched for something more specific than private investigators. What I needed wasn't surveillance. I already had proof of the affair. What I needed was a forensic accountant. My paralegal training had taught me one crucial lesson: follow the money. If Rebecca had been planning this divorce for weeks or months, she'd been making financial moves I hadn't noticed. The joint account showed regular activity, nothing obviously suspicious, but I'd been too trusting to look deeper. Not anymore. I pulled up our bank statements, credit card records, investment accounts. Everything we'd built together over 15 years, laid out in neat columns and transaction histories. I started with the most recent month and worked backward, looking for patterns. There. A wire transfer from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. $5,000, dated 3 weeks ago. The memo line read, "Home repair deposit." We hadn't scheduled any home repairs. I kept digging. Another transfer, 2 months back. $7,000 to the same unknown account. Memo. Kitchen renovation consultation. Our kitchen was fine. My jaw clenched as I documented each transfer with screenshots, forwarding them to my personal email and cloud backup. The amounts were significant but not catastrophic, carefully calibrated to avoid triggering alerts or my attention. She'd been siphoning money slowly, methodically, building a nest egg for her exit. The same way she'd been building her relationship with Kyle. Thursdays at the Marriott, yes, but I found credit card charges for lunches too. Coffee shops in Manhattan where she had no business meetings. A jewelry purchase at Tiffany's for $800 that I'd never seen her wear. Gifts for him, paid for with our money. I created a spreadsheet, logging every suspicious transaction with dates, amounts, and locations. The pattern emerged like a photograph in developing solution. Clear, damning, impossible to explain away. By 9:15, I had 17 pages of financial documentation showing systematic deception. Combined with the emails and photos, I had enough evidence to bury her in any divorce proceeding. But I still needed one more thing. I picked up my phone and called a number I'd found during my research, a law firm in Morristown specializing in high-asset divorces. The receptionist answered on the second ring. "Whitman and Associates, how may I direct your call?" "I need to schedule a consultation with a divorce attorney," I said, keeping my voice low even though Rebecca was still asleep upstairs. "As soon as possible." "Of course. May I have your name?" "David Patterson." "And is this regarding an upcoming divorce filing?" "Yes. My wife has been having an affair and I've discovered she's been hiding assets. I have extensive documentation." There was a pause, the sound of keyboard clicks. "Mr. Patterson, I have an opening Monday morning at 9 a.m. with Jeffrey Whitman. He's our senior partner and specializes in cases involving marital fraud. Would that work for you?" "Monday. 2 days away. I could maintain the facade for 2 more days." "That's perfect. Excellent. I'll need some basic information for our intake form." I provided the details mechanically, my mind already moving ahead to the next steps. The consultation would give me legal strategy, but I needed something else. Insurance that Rebecca couldn't destroy evidence or drain accounts before I filed. After hanging up, I opened our bank's website and changed the passwords on our joint accounts. Not to lock her out completely, that would tip my hand, but to add security questions only I could answer. Then I set up alerts for any transaction over $1,000, routed to my personal email. Small moves. Defensive positions. Upstairs, I heard the shower start running. Rebecca was awake. I closed all the browser windows and cleared my search history, then opened a random financial news site. When she came downstairs 20 minutes later, freshly showered and wearing yoga pants and one of my old Rutgers t-shirts, I was reading an article about interest rate projections. "Morning," she said, heading straight for the coffee maker. Her hair was still damp, hanging loose around her shoulders. She looked relaxed, comfortable, innocent. "Morning," I replied, not looking up from the screen. She poured her coffee and leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone. "The kids having fun at Mom's?" "Emma texted last night. They made cookies." "Sweet." She sipped her coffee, still focused on her phone. Probably texting him, I thought. Probably planning next Thursday. The casual domesticity of the moment felt surreal. We could have been any married couple on a quiet Saturday morning, comfortable in our routine, secure in our partnership. Except I knew the truth now, and she had no idea that I knew. "I'm thinking of playing golf this afternoon," I said, testing. "Anderson invited me to join his foursome at the club." Rebecca glanced up. "Oh, that sounds nice. I might go into the office for a few hours, catch up on some work." Saturday office work. Another lie, delivered as smoothly as all the others. "Sounds good," I said. She smiled and went back to her phone. I watched her for a moment. This woman I'd known for 15 years and felt nothing but cold calculation. The hurt was still there, buried deep, but I'd locked it away behind the same analytical walls I used at work. Emotion was a liability now. Strategy was survival. "Actually," I said, as if the thought had just occurred to me, "I should probably look at our finances this weekend. Make sure we're on track for the kids' college funds." It was a subtle probe, watching for her reaction. Rebecca's expression didn't change. "Sure, whatever you think is best. You're better with that stuff anyway." No hesitation, no nervousness. Either she was confident I wouldn't find anything, or she was a better liar than I'd given her credit for. Probably both. She finished her coffee and rinsed the mug. "I'm going to run some errands before work. Need anything?" "No, I'm good." "Okay, see you tonight." She grabbed her purse and keys, gave me a distracted wave, and headed for the garage. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway before moving. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom, to her nightstand where she kept her personal laptop, the one she used for work emails that were apparently too sensitive for her office computer. The laptop was password protected, but I had a good guess. I tried her mother's maiden name plus Emma's birth year. Access denied. I tried Kyle's name plus various number combinations. Still nothing. Then I remembered something from the emails I'd read, a reference to their first time, 11 months ago. I calculated backward from today's date and tried that number sequence combined with his initials. The screen unlocked. I didn't have much time. Rebecca's errands usually took an hour, maybe 90 minutes. I needed to work fast. I opened her browser history first. The usual mix of shopping sites, news outlets, work-related research. But then I found something interesting. Multiple searches for equitable distribution New Jersey, hiding assets during divorce, and separate bank accounts. She'd been doing her own research, planning her exit strategy just as carefully as I was now planning mine. I took photos of the search history with my phone, then dug deeper into her files. There, buried in a folder labeled Work Projects 2023, I found documents that had nothing to do with work. A draft divorce petition, partially completed. A list of our assets with handwritten notes about valuations. A consultation summary from her attorney meeting, dated 6 weeks ago. She'd been planning this for at least a month and a half, maybe longer. All those Thursday nights with Kyle, all those lies about overtime and client dinners, they weren't just about the affair. They were about building a new life while systematically dismantling ours. I photographed everything, my hands steady despite the rage building in my chest. Then I closed the files exactly as I'd found them, cleared my traces from her recent activity log, and shut down the laptop. When Rebecca came home 3 hours later, I was exactly where she'd left me, reading financial news at the kitchen table. She never suspected a thing. The weekend crawled by with excruciating slowness. Saturday morning, I made pancakes while Rebecca slept in, Emma and Tyler chattering about their upcoming soccer game. I flipped each pancake with mechanical precision, my mind cataloging the evidence I'd compiled. 17 photos, 463 emails, 12 bank transfers totaling $83,000, draft divorce petitions dated 6 weeks prior. "Dad, you're burning them," Emma said, wrinkling her nose. I looked down. The pancake had gone dark brown around the edges. I scraped it onto a plate and started fresh. Rebecca appeared around 10, wearing my old Rutgers sweatshirt and yoga pants, her hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked tired. Good. Maybe Kyle had kept her up late with his Thursday night performance. "Morning," she said, kissing the top of Emma's head. Not mine. When had she stopped kissing me good morning? I tried to remember and couldn't pinpoint the exact moment. "Coffee's fresh," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She poured herself a cup and sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone, probably texting him. The urge to grab it from her hands, to throw it against the wall and watch it shatter, rose up sharp and sudden. I gripped the spatula tighter. "What time's the game?" she asked, not looking up. 11:30. We need to leave in 20 minutes. "I can't make it. I have to go into the office for a few hours." Emma's face fell. "But Mom, you promised." "I know, sweetie, but something came up with the Carmichael merger. I'll be at the next one, I promise." Another lie. I'd checked her work calendar last night. No weekend meetings scheduled. She was probably meeting Kyle, the Marriott downtown, or maybe somewhere new. Maybe they were getting careless, or maybe she just didn't care anymore about maintaining the fiction. "That's too bad," I said. "The kids were looking forward to it." She shot me a look, something defensive flickering across her face. "It's work, David. You understand work commitments." I smiled. "Of course, I'll take plenty of pictures." After she left, showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater that definitely wasn't office attire, I loaded the kids into the SUV and drove to the soccer fields. I cheered at the right moments, handed out orange slices at halftime, made small talk with the other parents. Normal. Everything normal. But my phone sat heavy in my pocket, and twice I pulled it out to check the tracking app I'd installed on our shared iPad last night. Rebecca's location showed her at an address in Summit, not our office building downtown. I pulled up the street view. A renovated craftsman house with a BMW in the driveway. Kyle's house, probably. I took a screenshot and added it to my evidence folder. Tyler scored a goal in the second half. I whooped and clapped, lifting him onto my shoulders afterward while he grinned and waved at his sister. These were my kids. Mine. Rebecca could have Kyle, could have whatever future she'd been planning, but she wasn't taking them from me. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my office and went through the evidence again. My attorney appointment was Monday at 9. I needed to be prepared, needed to present everything in a clear, logical sequence. I created a timeline document, cross-referencing the bank transfers with the email dates, matching them to the nights she'd claimed to be working late. Pattern recognition. That's what I did for a living. Find the anomalies, track the trends, predict the outcome. Rebecca's affair had a rhythm to it. Thursday nights primarily, but also occasional Tuesday afternoons when she'd claimed lunch meetings. The money transfers happened on Fridays, always Fridays, in amounts just under $10,000, avoiding the automatic reporting threshold. She'd done her research. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "Heading home soon. Want me to pick up dinner?" I checked the tracking app. Still at the Summit address. "Sure," I typed back. "Ty, from that place on Elm?" Perfect. Usual order? Yeah. She arrived an hour later with takeout bags, her hair slightly mussed, her lipstick reapplied but not quite matching the shade she'd left in that morning. I noticed. I noticed everything now. We ate on the couch, watching some mindless action movie. She curled against my side, and I put my arm around her shoulders because that's what I'd always done. Her shampoo smelled different. A hotel brand, probably. The Marriott's signature scent. How was the office? I asked during a commercial break. Exhausting. The Carmichael people are being difficult about the terms. That's frustrating. Yeah. She tilted her head up to look at me. Thanks for handling the kids today. I know Emma was disappointed. She'll get over it. Rebecca's phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at it, then looked away quickly. Too quickly. I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. Kyle. Work? I asked. Yeah, just a follow-up email. She didn't pick up the phone. I wanted to ask her right then. Wanted to watch her face as I described the photos, the emails, the money. Wanted to see her scramble for explanations, watch the lies form and reform as she tried to talk her way out of it. But Monday was 2 days away, and I needed those 2 days. Needed my attorney's advice, needed the legal strategy mapped out before I showed my hand. So instead, I said, "Want more wine?" Sure. I poured her a glass from the bottle she'd opened, watching as she took a long sip. The same wine she'd shared with Kyle at the Marriott bar, according to the itemized receipt I'd found in her email. $40 Pinot Noir. She'd developed expensive tastes on my dime. Sunday morning, Rebecca announced she was meeting her sister for brunch. I knew she didn't have a sister. She was an only child. But I nodded and said that sounded nice, then took the kids to the park. We fed the ducks, played on the swings, got ice cream even though it was barely 50 degrees outside. Tyler got chocolate all over his face, and Emma lectured him about being messy, and for a few hours I almost forgot about the evidence folder on my laptop, the attorney appointment tomorrow, the bomb I was about to detonate in the center of our lives. Almost. That night, after the kids were in bed, I made a final backup of everything. Cloud storage, external hard drive, email to my personal account, and a physical USB drive I locked in my desk drawer at work. Redundancies on redundancies. If Rebecca discovered what I knew and tried to destroy the evidence, she'd fail. I'd made sure of that. She came to bed around 11, sliding under the covers beside me. I was reading a financial report, or pretending to. Big week ahead? She asked. The usual. You? Carmichael should finalize by Wednesday. Then things will calm down. Wednesday, 3 days from now. I wondered if that was when she'd planned to tell me. Or maybe she was going to wait until everything was signed and settled, until her attorney had all the documentation in place, until she could blindside me with divorce papers and a carefully constructed narrative about my failings as a husband. But I'd beaten her to it. She just didn't know yet. That's good, I said. You've been working so hard on it. She smiled and kissed my cheek. Thanks for understanding. I turned off the light and lay in the darkness, listening to her breathing slow and even out as she fell asleep. The same bed we'd shared for 10 years. The same room where we'd talked about baby names and mortgage rates and what color to paint the kitchen. All of it built on something I'd thought was solid, thought was real. My alarm was set for 6. The attorney's office opened at 8:30, my appointment at 9. In less than 12 hours, I'd walk into Jeffrey Kaplan's office, top divorce attorney in North Jersey, according to 3 different legal directories, and lay out everything I'd found. And then the real game would begin. I woke before the alarm, my internal clock conditioned by years of market openings and quarterly deadlines. 5:47 a.m. The house was silent except for Rebecca's steady breathing beside me. The same rhythm I'd fallen asleep to for 15 years, now transformed into something alien and repulsive. I slipped out of bed without disturbing her, grabbed my phone, and headed downstairs to my office. The monitors flickered to life, bathing the room in cold blue light. I had 2 hours before I needed to get the kids up for school. 2 hours before Rebecca would wake and resume her performance of normalcy. 2 hours to continue building my case. I pulled up the financial records again, this time focusing on a different pattern. The $83,000 she'd transferred wasn't the only irregularity. There were smaller transactions too, cash withdrawals of $200 or $300 every few weeks, always on Fridays. I cross-referenced them against my own calendar and found something interesting. They coincided with weekends when I'd taken Emma and Tyler to visit my parents in Pennsylvania. She'd been withdrawing cash when I wasn't around to notice. Probably funding her Thursday nights, paying for hotels or dinners in cash to avoid leaving a paper trail on our joint cards. Smart, but not smart enough. She'd left the ATM withdrawals visible in our checking account, probably assuming I never looked at the day-to-day transactions. I documented each one, creating a spreadsheet with dates, amounts, and corresponding calendar events. The pattern was damning. 37 withdrawals over 11 months, totaling just over $9,000. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, different from the one that had sent the photos Friday night. Meet me at Rook Coffee on Elm at 7:30. Come alone. I have information you need. I stared at the message, my analyst's brain immediately cataloging possibilities. Another anonymous contact. Another person who knew about Rebecca's affair. The question was, friend or threat? I typed back, "Who is this?" The response came within seconds. Someone who knows what she's planning. 7:30. Don't be late. I checked the time. I could make it if I left by 7:15, but that meant waking the kids early, getting them ready before Rebecca was up. Or I could skip it, ignore this mysterious contact and stick to my own plan. But the message had said what she's planning, present tense. Not what she'd done, what she was planning to do. I forwarded the text to my personal email, added it to my evidence folder, then replied, "I'll be there." At 6:30, I was showering when I heard Rebecca's footsteps in the hallway. She knocked on the bathroom door, her voice muffled through the wood. "David, you're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I called back, keeping my tone neutral. "Thinking about the Carmichael numbers." A pause. "Want me to make coffee?" "Already started a pot. Thanks, though." Her footsteps retreated. I finished rinsing, dried off, and dressed quickly. Khakis and a button-down, my standard Monday uniform. When I came downstairs, Rebecca was at the kitchen table in her robe, scrolling through her phone with a small smile playing at her lips. Texting him, probably. Planning her day, her lies, her double life. "I'm going to head in early," I said, pouring coffee into my travel mug. "Want to review some projections before the team meeting?" She glanced up, her expression shifting to mild concern. "This early? It's not even 7. Markets wait for no one." I managed a tired smile. "I'll probably grab breakfast at the office. Can you handle getting the kids to school?" "Of course." She set down her phone. "You okay? You seem stressed." The casual concern in her voice, the practiced warmth. It was masterful. If I hadn't seen the emails, the photos, the evidence of her systematic deception, I would have believed her completely. Just work stuff, I said. Nothing to worry about. I kissed her forehead, maintaining the facade, and left before she could ask more questions. Rook Coffee was a local spot 3 blocks from our house, a place Rebecca and I had gone on Sunday mornings before the kids were born. I hadn't been back in years. The interior was different now, renovated with industrial fixtures and reclaimed wood, but the smell was the same: dark roast and cinnamon. I arrived at 7:28. The morning crowd was thin. A few remote workers with laptops, a couple of retirees reading newspapers. I ordered a black coffee and took a corner table with a view of the entrance. At 7:33, a woman walked in. Mid-40s, athletic build, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore yoga pants and a North Face jacket, the uniform of suburban mothers. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on me with immediate recognition. She ordered nothing, just walked straight to my table and sat down. "David Patterson," she said. Not a question. "And you are?" "My name is Jennifer Walsh. My husband is Kyle Brennan." The words hit like a physical blow. Kyle's wife. The other betrayed spouse. I set down my coffee carefully, buying time to process. "You sent the photos?" "No." She shook her head. "That was someone else, a mutual friend who thought we both deserved to know. She sent them to me first 2 weeks ago. I've been watching them since, gathering my own evidence. When I saw she'd sent them to you too, I figured it was time we talked." "What do you want?" Jennifer leaned forward, her voice low and controlled. "I want the same thing you do. I want them to pay for what they've done. But if we're going to do this right, we need to coordinate. Kyle filed for divorce last Tuesday. He's claiming irreconcilable differences, asking for 50-50 custody of our daughter. He's playing the reasonable husband, the good father. His attorney doesn't know about Rebecca yet." "Rebecca's been planning to file too," I said. "She's already consulted a lawyer, moved money around." "I know. I've seen their emails." Of course she had. She'd probably done exactly what I'd done. Hacked into her husband's accounts, read every message, documented every lie. "What do you propose?" I asked. Jennifer pulled out her phone, opened a folder, and slid it across the table. I scrolled through the images. More photos of Kyle and Rebecca, these ones recent. Dated from this past weekend. Saturday afternoon at a park I didn't recognize. Sunday morning at a cafe in Summit. "They met twice this weekend while you were playing Happy Family," Jennifer said. "Kyle told me he was golfing with clients. Rebecca probably told you she was shopping or meeting a friend. She'd said she was getting her nails done. I'd been at Tyler's soccer game. I have 11 months of documentation," I continued. "Emails, financial records, hotel receipts. Kyle paid for with a credit card I didn't know existed. He opened it in his name only, but he's stupid enough to use our home address. The statements come to a P.O. box, but I have the key." She was thorough, methodical. I recognized the same cold fury that had driven my own investigation. "I'm meeting with the divorce attorney this morning," I said. "Jeffrey Kaplan." "Good choice. I'm using Patricia Donovan. She's a shark." Jennifer took her phone back. "Here's what I'm thinking. We both file this week. We both present our evidence simultaneously. That way, neither of them has time to coordinate their stories or hide more assets. Kyle's already filed, so I'm amending my response to include adultery and requesting full custody. You file first, cite the affair, request primary custody of your kids." "New Jersey is a no-fault state," I said. Adultery doesn't affect asset distribution. No, but it affects custody. And it affects how the judge sees their credibility. When they're both exposed as liars who've been conducting an affair for almost a year, who've been deceiving their spouses and children, who've been manipulating finances and planning secret divorces, that affects everything. She was right. This wasn't just about money or property. This was about control of the narrative, about making sure the truth came out before they could spin it. "What about the kids?" I asked. "Emma and Tyler don't know anything yet. Your daughter, Sophia, she's 12. She doesn't know either." Jennifer's expression softened slightly. "And I want to keep it that way as long as possible. But they're going to find out eventually. Better it comes from us, in our own time, than from their lying parents trying to play victim." I thought about Emma's face at the soccer game, the way she'd hugged Rebecca after scoring her goal. The trust in her eyes. "When?" I asked. "I'm amending my filing Wednesday. You should file Tuesday tomorrow if Kaplan can expedite it. That gives them no time to prepare, no time to get their stories straight." I nodded slowly. The timeline was aggressive, but it made sense. Strike fast, strike hard, don't give them room to maneuver. "One more thing," Jennifer said. She pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket and slid it across the table. "Kyle's been texting someone else, not Rebecca, another woman. I don't know who she is yet, but the messages started 3 weeks ago. He might be lining up his next affair before this one even ends." I opened the envelope. Screenshots of text messages, flirtatious and suggestive, between Kyle and a contact saved as L. "Rebecca might be planning the same thing," I said. "Or she might think Kyle is her endgame. Either way, she's about to find out what happens when you underestimate your opponent." Jennifer smiled, a cold, satisfied expression that probably mirrored my own. "Call me after your meeting with Kaplan. We should stay in contact. Make sure our attorneys are on the same page." She wrote her number on a napkin and stood to leave. "Jennifer," I said, "who sent the original photos? You said it was a mutual friend." "Someone who works with both of them. Someone who got tired of watching them parade their affair around like it was some romantic comedy, instead of a betrayal of two families." She paused. "She asked to stay anonymous. I'm respecting that." Then she was gone, disappearing into the Monday morning foot traffic on Elm Street. I sat alone with my cold coffee and the envelope of screenshots, my mind already racing through the implications. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was coordinated, strategic, a two-front assault that would leave Rebecca and Kyle nowhere to hide. I checked the time. 7:51 a.m. I had just over an hour before my meeting with Kaplan. I pulled out my phone and started drafting an email to him, attaching Jennifer's contact information and a summary of what she'd shared. Then I added the new screenshots to my evidence folder, organized them by date, and updated my timeline. The game had changed, but I was ready. The weekend stretched ahead like a minefield. I had 48 hours to maintain the performance of my life while preparing for war. Saturday morning arrived with the usual chaos. Emma bounded into our bedroom at 7:15, already dressed in her soccer uniform, ponytail bouncing. Tyler followed, dragging his stuffed dinosaur and asking about breakfast. Rebecca stirred beside me, reaching for her phone before her eyes were fully open. I'd watched her do that every morning for 15 years. Now I knew what she was checking. "Morning," she murmured, scrolling through messages. Her thumb moved quickly, deleting something, probably. "What time is Emma's game?" 9:30. I swung out of bed, pulling on jeans. I'll get breakfast started. You're the best. She smiled at me, that same warm smile I'd fallen in love with at Rutgers. The smile that had been lying to me for 11 months. I made pancakes while Rebecca showered. Emma chattered about her team's chances against the Wildcats. Tyler built a fort out of couch cushions. Normal Saturday morning. Nuclear family tableau. Everything fine. Except I kept seeing Rebecca's emails in my head. The ones where she'd written to Kyle about playing house with me while planning her exit strategy. The ones where she'd laughed about my obliviousness. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Walsh. Kyle left at 6 a.m., said he had errands. Tracker shows he's at a coffee shop on Elm Street. Want to bet who he's meeting? I glanced toward the hallway. Water still running upstairs. Elle? Probably. I'm parked across the street. Will update. I pocketed my phone as Rebecca appeared, hair wet, wearing yoga pants and my old Rutgers sweatshirt. She poured coffee, kissed the top of Emma's head, checked her phone again. You okay? She was looking at me. You seem distracted. Just thinking about work stuff. I flipped a pancake. Thompson wants the quarterly projections revised. On a Saturday, she frowned. That's annoying. The irony wasn't lost on me. How many Saturdays had she claimed to work while I'd believed her without question? Yeah, well, I plated the pancakes. Corporate life. We loaded the kids into the SUV at 8:40. Rebecca rode shotgun, still glued to her phone. I caught glimpses of her screen at red lights, text messages, but she angled it away whenever I looked over. Emma's soccer game was at the regional park, fields stretching across former farmland. Parents clustered along the sidelines with folding chairs and coffee thermoses. I recognized most of them. We'd been doing this routine for 2 seasons. David, Rebecca. Amanda Green waved from her usual spot. Her daughter played defense on Emma's team. Over here. We set up our chairs. Tyler immediately ran off to play on the nearby playground. Rebecca made small talk with Amanda about the weather, upcoming school events, someone's kitchen renovation. I watched her perform. She was good at this, the engaged suburban mom, invested in community, in family. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer. Confirmed. Kyle met a woman. Blonde, late 20s, business casual, very cozy, taking photos. I typed back one-handed while Rebecca chatted with Amanda. Send them to me. Already did. Check your encrypted email. The game started. Emma played midfielder, aggressive and fast. I cheered when she stole the ball, groaned when the other team scored. Rebecca stood beside me, doing the same. We looked like any other married couple supporting their kid. Except I was planning her financial destruction while she was probably texting her boyfriend. Halftime. Rebecca's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then at me. I need to take this. Work thing. She walked toward the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear. I gave her 30 seconds, then followed at a distance. Stayed behind a minivan where I could hear but not be seen. Can't talk long, she was saying. I'm at Emma's game. No, he doesn't suspect anything. I know. Monday, right? Yeah, the attorney said we should be ready to move quickly once the papers are filed. What? No, I haven't told him yet. That's the whole point. She laughed. That same laugh from the Marriott photos. Kyle, stop. I can't. Fine, Tuesday then. After I talk to Kaplan. Yes, I'm sure. This is what we planned. I love you too. She ended the call. Stood there for a moment, staring at her phone with a small smile. I retreated to the sidelines before she turned around. The second half was torture. Emma scored a goal and I hugged Rebecca in celebration, her body warm against mine, familiar and foreign all at once. She smelled like her usual lavender shampoo, the same scent that had been on my pillows for 15 years. The same scent Kyle Brennan probably knew just as well. We won 3-2. Emma was ecstatic. We took the kids for ice cream at Scoops, the place we'd been going since Emma was Tyler's age. The owner knew us by name, knew our usual orders. Mint chocolate chip for Emma, cookie dough for Tyler, coffee for me, vanilla for Rebecca. Remember when Tyler got ice cream in his hair? Rebecca laughed, watching our son attack his cone. He was what, 3? 2.5. I smiled at the memory. It felt like looking at someone else's life. We have that photo somewhere. In the album from that summer. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Time flies. Her wedding ring caught the afternoon sunlight. I'd saved for 3 months to buy that ring. Proposed at the same park where we'd had our first date. She'd cried and said yes, and I'd thought I was the luckiest man alive. My phone buzzed. I checked it under the table. Jennifer again. Got something. Kyle's been researching custody law in New Jersey. Browser history shows he's been looking at father's rights and primary custody articles. Think he's planning to fight me for the kids, I texted back. Rebecca's doing the same. Found search history for mother's custody advantage and father's work schedule impact on custody. They're coordinating strategy. Probably. Makes me sick. I pocketed the phone. Rebecca was helping Tyler wipe chocolate from his face. Emma was telling us about some drama with her friend Sophia. Normal family moment. Except I was sitting across from a stranger who wore my wife's face. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Rebecca curled up beside me on the couch. Some crime procedural played on TV. She rested her head on my shoulder. "Good day," she murmured. "Yeah." I kept my eyes on the screen. "Emma played great. She gets her competitive streak from you." Rebecca's hand found mine. "You know that, right? The way you are about work, about winning. She's just like you." Something twisted in my chest. Emma did have my competitive nature, my attention to detail, my memory for patterns and numbers, which meant she'd remember this, the divorce, the aftermath, whatever came next. "I'm tired," Rebecca said. "Think I'll head up." "I'll be there soon. Want to finish this episode?" She kissed my cheek and disappeared upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close, then opened my laptop. Jennifer had sent the photos from Kyle's coffee meeting. The blonde woman was young, attractive, professional-looking. They sat close, his hand covering hers on the table. In one shot, he was leaning in, whispering something that made her laugh. I forwarded them to my encrypted backup, then checked Rebecca's location. Still at home, 2nd floor. Probably getting ready for bed in the master bathroom where she'd showered off Kyle's cologne every Thursday for 11 months. My email dinged. Jeffrey Kaplan's office, confirming Monday's 9 a.m. appointment. I'd submitted all my documentation through his secure portal. The photos, the emails, the financial records, everything. His paralegal had responded within an hour. "Mr. Kaplan has reviewed your materials and looks forward to meeting with you." Professional, efficient, no dramatic declarations about the quality of my evidence. I opened a new document on my laptop, started typing out a timeline, every Thursday night for the past 11 months, cross-referenced with Rebecca's calendar, our credit card statements, her location data. A pattern so clear it could be presented in court without commentary. 11 months of lies, mapped and documented. My phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca upstairs. You coming to bed? I looked at the message, at the heart emoji she'd added, the same casual affection she'd been performing for months while planning to leave me. Soon, just wrapping up some work stuff. Don't stay up too late. Love you. I stared at those two words. Love you. She'd said them this morning, at Emma's game, over ice cream, just now. How long had they been empty? When had they stopped meaning anything? Love you too. I sent it because that's what I always sent. Because maintaining the facade was crucial. Because Monday morning I'd sit across from Jeffrey Kaplan and begin the process of dismantling everything Rebecca thought she'd so carefully planned. But the words tasted like ashes. I worked until 2 a.m., building my case file. Every piece of evidence cataloged, cross-referenced, backed up in 3 separate locations. When I finally went upstairs, Rebecca was asleep, phone charging on her nightstand. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her breathe. 15 years. 2 kids. A life built brick by brick. And she'd been ready to burn it all down without warning. Monday couldn't come fast enough. The Sunday evening light faded to darkness outside our kitchen windows as I watched Rebecca prepare dinner. She hummed something under her breath. I didn't recognize the tune, while chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. Emma and Tyler were upstairs, their footsteps thundering across the ceiling as they played some game that involved a lot of running and shrieking. "How was your weekend?" Rebecca asked without looking up from the cutting board. "Good. Took the kids to the park yesterday. Tyler's getting better at the monkey bars." "That's great." She scraped the vegetables into a pan with the side of her knife. The sizzle filled the silence between us. "I was thinking we should plan a vacation. Maybe spring break? The kids would love Disney." I leaned against the counter, coffee mug in hand, studying her profile. She looked relaxed, comfortable, planning family vacations while secretly planning to leave me. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. "Sure, we can look at dates." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting another message from Jennifer. We'd been texting throughout the day, coordinating our strategies. But the name on the screen made my pulse spike. Jeffrey Kaplan. Confirmed for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring all documentation. We'll need approximately 2 hours for initial consultation. I typed back a quick acknowledgement and pocketed the phone. "Work?" Rebecca asked. "Yeah, early meeting tomorrow." "On a Monday morning? That's unusual." "New client, big portfolio." The lies came easier now. I'd learned from the best, after all. She nodded, accepting it without question. Why wouldn't she? I was predictable, reliable David. The husband who never questioned her Thursday night work dinners. The fool who believed every word. Not anymore. After dinner, I helped clean up while Rebecca went upstairs to supervise bath time. I loaded the dishwasher with mechanical precision, my mind already at tomorrow's meeting. I'd printed everything, the emails, the bank statements, showing her transfers, the timeline I'd constructed. 3 copies, one for Kaplan, one for my personal records, one stored in a safety deposit box I'd opened Friday afternoon at a bank across town where Rebecca and I had no accounts. Document everything, create redundancies, protect the evidence. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer this time. Kyle just left for a business trip to Boston. Checked his email, meeting L there. I've got his hotel confirmation, the Ritz-Carlton. I stared at the message. The man was already moving on to his next target while still married, still carrying on with Rebecca. The sheer audacity of it triggered something cold in my chest. Does Rebecca know about Elle? Jennifer's response came quickly. Don't think so. Her last email to him was yesterday, still very much acting like they're exclusive. So Kyle was cheating on his wife with my wife, and now cheating on my wife with someone else. It would have been almost funny if it weren't my life imploding. When are you filing? I typed. Wednesday morning, giving him 2 days to dig himself deeper with Elle. More evidence. Smart. Jennifer had the same methodical approach I did. We were both playing chess while our spouses thought they were the only ones with secrets. I finished the dishes and went upstairs. Emma was already in bed, her nightlight casting stars across the ceiling. I sat on the edge of her mattress and brushed hair from her forehead. Daddy, can we get a puppy? Maybe, sweetheart. We'll see. That means no. She pouted, but her eyes were already heavy. It means we'll talk about it. I kissed her forehead. Love you, Em. Love you too. Tyler's room was next. He was still wide awake, surrounded by Lego constructions that covered every surface. Look, Dad, I built the Death Star. It looked more like a misshapen sphere, but his pride was evident. That's awesome, buddy, but it's bedtime. 5 more minutes? Nice try, brush your teeth. He groaned but complied, dragging himself to the bathroom. I waited while he went through his routine, then tucked him in. Dad, is Mom sad about something? The question caught me off guard. Why do you ask? I don't know. She seems different lately, like she's thinking about other stuff. 8 years old and already picking up on the tension. I chose my words carefully. Sometimes grown-ups have a lot in their minds, but we both love you very much. That never changes. He seemed satisfied with that answer, rolling over and clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Okay, night, Dad. Night, Tyler. Rebecca was in our bedroom when I entered, sitting at her vanity and removing her makeup. She met my eyes in the mirror. The kids okay? Fine. Tyler asked if we could get a puppy. She smiled. He's been asking me too. Maybe we should consider it. Maybe. As if we'd still be a family unit when spring came. As if she wasn't planning to take half of everything and start fresh with Kyle, or whoever came after Kyle. I changed into sleep clothes and climbed into bed, opening my laptop. Rebecca finished her routine and slid in beside me, her phone in hand. I watched from my peripheral vision as she typed something, smiled at the response, then set the phone face down on her nightstand. Texting him. Right next to me. The audacity was breathtaking. I'm exhausted, she said, turning off her lamp. Big week ahead. Yeah, me too. She settled into her pillow, and within minutes, her breathing deepened into sleep. I waited another 30 minutes to be sure, then carefully extracted myself from bed and went downstairs to my office. The house was silent except for the hum of my computer monitors coming to life. I pulled up the files I'd organized for Kaplan, reviewing them one more time. 11 months of documented infidelity. $83,000 in hidden transfers. Email exchanges discussing divorce strategy. Her consultation with 3 different attorneys. I'd found those calendar entries buried in her digital footprint. She'd been planning this for at least 6 months, maybe longer. But she'd made mistakes. She'd underestimated me, assumed I'd never look, never question, never fight back. She'd gotten comfortable in her deception. My phone lit up with another message from Jennifer. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about everything. Same here. Tomorrow starts the endgame. Scared? I considered the question. Was I scared? Terrified, actually. Of the legal battle ahead, of telling the kids, of dismantling 15 years of shared life. But underneath the fear was something else. A cold determination that had been building since that first anonymous photo appeared on my screen. More angry than scared, I typed back. Good. Use it. That's what my attorney told me. Channel it into preparation, not reaction. Smart advice. David, thank you for working with me on this. I don't think I could do it alone. We're stronger together. They won't know what hit them. I signed off and returned to my documents. At 1:30 a.m., I finally shut down the computer and crept back upstairs. Rebecca hadn't moved, still sleeping peacefully on her side of the bed. I slid back under the covers and stared at the ceiling. In 7.5 hours, I'd be sitting across from Jeffrey Kaplan, officially beginning the process of ending my marriage. In 3 days, Jennifer would file against Kyle. By the end of the week, both Rebecca and Kyle would know their secrets were exposed. The thought should have brought satisfaction, but instead, I felt only a hollow ache. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. 15 years ago, standing at the altar, I'd meant every word of my vows. I'd built a life around this woman, created children with her, planned a future that extended decades ahead. She'd blown it all apart for Thursday nights at the Marriott. My alarm would go off at 6:30 a.m. I needed to sleep, to be sharp for tomorrow. But my mind kept cycling through scenarios, contingencies, potential outcomes. New Jersey was an equitable distribution state, not community property, which meant the court had discretion in dividing assets. The affair would matter. The hidden money would matter. My documentation would matter. I'd done everything right. Built the case methodically, covered every angle, protected the evidence. Now I just had to execute. Beside me, Rebecca sighed in her sleep and rolled over, her hand landing on my chest. An unconscious gesture of intimacy that meant nothing anymore. I didn't move, didn't push her away. Let her sleep. Let her have these last few hours of thinking she'd gotten away with it. Tomorrow, everything changed. Tomorrow, the game moved from shadow to light. And I was ready. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday afternoon in late March, 6 months after that first anonymous photo lit up my screen. Judge Patricia Brennan, no relation to Kyle, thankfully, signed the final decree at 3:17 p.m. in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and broken promises. Rebecca sat 20 feet away with her attorney, her face carefully neutral. She'd mastered that expression over the months of depositions and mediation sessions. The same face she'd worn when Jeffrey Kaplan had presented our evidence in the first hearing, watching her carefully constructed narrative collapse in real time. Mr. Patterson, Judge Brennan said, looking over her reading glasses at me. You are awarded primary physical custody of Emma and Tyler, with Mrs. Patterson receiving alternating weekends and Wednesday evenings. The marital assets will be divided 60-40 in your favor, accounting for the funds Mrs. Patterson transferred without your knowledge or consent. She will be required to repay $41,000 to the marital estate within 18 months. Rebecca's jaw tightened. Her attorney whispered something, but she shook her head. The judge continued through the technical details: retirement accounts, the house, mine, her car, hers, the vacation property we'd bought in the Poconos, to be sold, proceeds split. Everything we'd built together, reduced to line items and dollar amounts. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell. 15 years, over in less than 30 seconds of judicial pronouncement. I gathered my papers while Jeffrey packed his briefcase. Rebecca stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked out without looking at me. Her attorney followed, already on his phone. Through the courtroom windows, I could see Kyle waiting by a black Mercedes in the parking lot. They'd stayed together somehow. Even after Jennifer's divorce had exposed his affair with Elle, turned out to be his paralegal, a 26-year-old named Lauren who'd quit when everything went public. Even after both divorces had painted them as the villains in matching scandals that had rippled through our suburban community like a grenade. Love, I suppose. Or stubbornness. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. "You okay?" Jeffrey asked, snapping his briefcase shut. "Yeah. I wasn't, but I would be. Thank you. For everything. You did the hard work. I just presented it." He shook my hand. "Take care of those kids, David." I drove home in silence, the decree sitting on my passenger seat like a passenger I hadn't invited. The house was empty. Emma and Tyler were at Rebecca's mother's place for the afternoon, giving me time to handle the legal stuff as I'd explained it. They knew their parents were divorced now. Had known since January when we'd sat them down together and delivered the news in the therapist-approved language we'd rehearsed. Emma had cried. Tyler had asked if it was his fault. Rebecca had said all the right things about how we both loved them, how nothing would change that, how this was about grown-up problems they didn't need to worry about. I'd watched her perform maternal concern while knowing she'd been willing to blindside me with divorce papers, to paint me as the distant workaholic husband while she played the victim. The therapist said I needed to let go of the anger, that holding on to it would only hurt the kids. I was working on it. The house felt different now. Quieter. Half of Rebecca's things were gone. She'd taken her clothes, her books, the artwork she'd bought at local galleries over the years. The walls had pale squares where frames used to hang. The closet in our bedroom, my bedroom now, had empty hangers swaying slightly in the air conditioning current. I changed out of my suit and into jeans, then stood in the kitchen where Rebecca had made stir-fry that last Sunday night before everything detonated, where she'd hummed and chopped vegetables and planned Disney vacations while secretly planning her exit. My phone buzzed. Jennifer Walsh. Heard it's final. Congratulations, condolences. Not sure what to say. I smiled despite myself. Jennifer and I had become unlikely friends through this process, bonded by betrayal and legal strategy. Her divorce from Kyle had finalized 3 weeks ago. She'd gotten primary custody of Sophia, and a favorable settlement after Kyle's affair with Lauren had given her additional ammunition. "Both, probably," I typed back. "How are you holding up?" "Better. Sophia's adjusting. Started therapy, which is helping. You? Ask me in a year." "Fair? Coffee this weekend?" "Misery loves company." "Sure. Saturday morning?" "It's a date. Well, not a date. You know what I mean." I did. We'd established early on that our friendship was purely platonic, born of circumstance rather than attraction. She was a good person who'd been dealt a bad hand. We understood each other in ways that people with intact marriages couldn't. I picked up Emma and Tyler at 6. They were subdued in the car, picking up on my mood despite my attempts to seem normal. "Is it done?" Emma asked quietly. "The divorce stuff?" "Yeah, sweetheart, it's done." "Does that mean we have to move?" "No, we're staying in this house. Your rooms, your school, your friends, all the same." She nodded, staring out the window. Tyler clutched his dinosaur in the back seat, silent. We ordered pizza for dinner, their choice. They picked a movie, some animated thing about talking animals. I sat between them on the couch, their small bodies pressed against my sides, and felt the weight of single parenthood settling onto my shoulders. This was my life now. Solo bedtimes and parent-teacher conferences for one, splitting holidays and missing half of their childhoods because of a custody schedule, explaining to Tyler why mom wasn't there for his birthday, to Emma why she couldn't have both parents at her soccer games anymore. But they were here. They were safe. They were mine. Rebecca had fought for 50-50 custody, had painted me as the workaholic father who'd prioritized career over family. But my documentation had told a different story. Years of soccer games and school events, of packed lunches and homework help, of being present while she'd been working late with Kyle. The court had seen through her narrative. Judge Brennan had been particularly unimpressed with Rebecca's claim that she deserved equal custody after systematically lying to her family for 11 months. Small victories. After the kids were asleep, I sat in my office and opened my laptop. The evidence folders were still there. I'd kept everything, backed up in multiple locations. Insurance, maybe. Or just proof that I hadn't imagined it all. I clicked through a few of the old emails, Rebecca's words to Kyle about their future together. About how she was finally choosing happiness after years of settling for security. About how I was a good provider but not a real partner. The therapist said reading these was self-harm, that I needed to delete them, move forward, stop picking at the wound. But something kept me from hitting delete. Maybe I needed the reminder. Needed to remember that the woman I'd loved had been a fiction, a performance that had ended when she thought the curtain was down. Or maybe I just wasn't ready to let go yet. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations on the divorce. You deserved better. I stared at it. The same area code as the original anonymous message, 973 Northern New Jersey. The person who'd sent the first photos, who'd set all of this in motion. Who is this? I typed. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Someone who worked with them. Someone who got tired of watching them laugh about it in the break room. Someone who thought you and Jennifer deserved to know. Why stay anonymous? Because I still work there. Because I don't need the drama. I just needed you to know the truth. I sat with that for a moment. This stranger had blown up my marriage, had sent me down a path that had led to courtrooms and custody battles and explaining to my 8-year-old why mommy lived somewhere else now. But they'd also saved me from years more of lies. From the blind side Rebecca had been planning. From waking up one day to divorce papers and a narrative I couldn't control. Thank you, I typed. I mean that. You're welcome. Take care of those kids. The number went dark. No more messages. The anonymous guardian angel disappearing back into the shadows. I closed the laptop and went upstairs. Checked on Emma, asleep with her stuffed rabbit. Checked on Tyler, sprawled sideways across his bed, dinosaur on the floor. I adjusted his blanket and retrieved the dinosaur, tucking it beside him. Then I went to my bedroom, still couldn't think of it as just my bedroom, and lay in the darkness. The house settled around me with its familiar creaks and sighs. Somewhere in Summit, Rebecca was probably with Kyle, starting the life she'd wanted. Building something new from the wreckage of what we'd had. I hoped it was worth it. Hoped that Thursday nights at the Marriott had been worth losing her children's daily presence, worth the judgment of neighbors and friends, worth the financial hit and the legal fees and the reputation she'd destroyed. But I doubted it. Because here's what I'd learned over 6 months of depositions and discovery, of mediation sessions and court dates. People who cheat don't just betray their spouses. They betray themselves. They trade long-term meaning for short-term excitement, stability for novelty, depth for surface. Rebecca had chosen passion over partnership, had convinced herself that what she felt for Kyle was more real than 15 years of marriage, more valuable than the family we'd built. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been the distant workaholic she'd described to her attorney. Maybe I'd failed her in ways I still couldn't see. But I'd never lied to her. Never betrayed her. Never looked her in the eye and said, "I love you," while planning my exit strategy. That had to count for something. I pulled out my phone one last time, scrolling through photos. Emma's first day of kindergarten. Tyler learning to ride a bike. Family vacation to the beach 3 years ago. Everyone sunburned and happy. Rebecca and me on our 10th anniversary, the night she'd worn that red dress. The night that, according to the emails, had been 1 week after her first Thursday with Kyle. I'd been so happy in that photo. So completely unaware. The therapist said I needed to forgive her, eventually. That holding on to resentment would poison my future relationships, would hurt the kids, would trap me in the past. I wasn't there yet. Maybe I'd never be. But I'd survived. I'd protected my children. I'd fought back and won. And tomorrow morning, I'd wake up and make breakfast and take Emma to soccer practice and help Tyler with his Lego Death Star. I'd live my life, build my future, be the father my kids deserved. Without her. The thought didn't bring peace exactly, but it brought something close. A grim acceptance that this was my reality now. That the life I'd planned was gone, replaced by something smaller but more honest. I set my phone on the nightstand and closed my eyes. Somewhere in the darkness, I heard Emma's voice from that first night after we'd told them, "Will you and Mom ever get back together?" And my answer, carefully honest, "No, sweetheart, but we'll both always be your parents. That never changes." She'd accepted it with the resilience of children, the ability to adapt that adults lose somewhere along the way. I hoped I could learn from her. Hoped I could build something new from these ruins, something stable and true. But tonight, I just needed to sleep. Tomorrow would come soon enough, with all its demands and complications and small mercies. And I would face it, alone but standing, broken but not beaten, ready for whatever came next. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Survive the betrayals, protect what matters, and keep moving forward into the uncertain light of morning. Even when the person you trusted most becomes a stranger. Even when love turns to lies. Even when the life you built crumbles to dust. You survive. You endure. You become someone new. And maybe, eventually, you find a way to forgive. Not for them, but for yourself. Maybe. But not tonight. Tonight, I just needed to sleep and dream of a future where the past couldn't touch me anymore. Where my children's laughter drowned out the echoes of broken promises. Where I was enough, all by myself. That future was coming. I could feel it. Just beyond the horizon of this ending, a new beginning waited. And I was ready.